successful, right? Well, how many other businesses do you have? Oh, okay. Well, that makes a lot more sense. So now we're trying to get another one going to increase the emerald income, eh? Very smart. Well, I've actually been operating quite a bit in this current field, and I have some expertise after the last 2 years of doing it. So I've organized some documents, about 4 documents, to kind of go over with you, and I'll showcase some of the most important information in the ideas that you provided. We can look at the financials for it, as well as the most profitable endeavors. Okay? Yeah, should we get into it? Yeah, I'm always glad to hear when you're around. You're always such a good client to work with. Let me move this out of the way. Let's open this up. Which document should we start with here? Yeah. That's the corporate structure. It'll probably be best to start with this one. Let's close this up for now. So, let's take a look at what we're working with here, and again, I will highlight for you those portions of important information, alright? Okay, so this is your current income overview. It's what you've been making, or at least storing with us over the last several months and into the last year. This is where all your disposable emeralds are going at the moment. And this is where they're allocated, okay? So the key metric here is your monthly net is 4,200 emeralds. That's decent. It's not very high. We kind of want to increase that, and that's why I'm assuming that you're looking to open some new ventures with us. Or to kind of assess it, not with us. Of course, there are options for that. Don't get me wrong, there are. But this is currently what we're looking at. Okay? So you're annually bringing in around 50,400 emeralds. Great numbers. Very good, especially at a net value. But let's see where most of your spending is going, shall we? You're spending about 1,200 emeralds on housing and utilities, so that would include things like base upgrades, right? Or material upgrades. Okay, this is what's costing you the most with a 1,200 output. That's not great. So maybe if we can reduce those prices, we can have some more for the, the business venture we're trying to get into. We have food and provisions taking up about 650 emeralds. Equipment and gear very similarly at 500 emeralds. And then transport, mount fees, boat fees, whatever else. But that's usually being charged with a great city. Unfortunately, this isn't a number you can escape. It's going to be there. You're going to have to pay this, especially if you use these transportation methods. Licensing fees are expensive, I understand, but unfortunately that's just where we're at right now. Okay? Just taking a sip of my cup of joe. Alright, guild dues and taxes, so that's obviously service fees for what we are providing you, this type of service. Taxes, now that's charged by the great city. These are something that we could discuss. The problem is they're kind of varying, and we would have to bring in an expert on emerald tax to ensure that we can create some proper ways for you to save on your tax output. But unfortunately, at the moment, it seems like from our assessments, you're paying your dues on that, and it's just there's not much you can change. Now, once you start the venture, we can talk about different avenues you may take. Alright, savings and investments. So sure. So, like, I don't know if you're buying things for hobbies or so on, you could probably bring this down. I mean, you're spending more on this than you are on your transportation fees and your taxes. I mean, individually, of course, together, no. But I think that if you brought this number down, we could see more of an investment allocation into your new business venture that we're talking about, okay? And we'll get to those ideas in a little bit. Alright, so, some key insights. 71% of income goes to fixed costs, right? It's housing, food, transport, guild dues. That food also, I forgot to mention, but food does also allocate things like compost and farming. So if you're growing your own, we put that in there. Only 14% is actively saved. That's what we're saying. If we can get the discretionary number to be more in the savings, we can see an increase in that. Equipment spending could be redirected into business venture for higher long-term returns. Now, this was my colleague. My colleague mentioned this. I'm not a huge fan of it because specifically I think that some of your business ventures require good equipment. I think it's better if you bring down discretionary, but my colleague thinks that you could also reduce on your equipment spending and build or craft the equipment yourself. But I definitely believe that you have a better shot at lowering your discretionary for the business venture. Okay, last, a good overview for you is this last graph bar we have down here, just going over gear and leisure, guild transport savings, reinvestable, how those percentages are allocated, and you can kind of go through these and decide where you would like to increase them. We can do another monthly assessment next month and kind of go over it if you'd like. Yeah, okay. Let me just highlight that for you and tell you that this is your homework, okay? And I'll put a couple stars beside it there so you know it's important. Should we get to the next document? Yeah? Okay, let's do it. Let's take a look at the business venture analysis. I want to keep this out because it informs this document. We are probably going to need our calculator as well. Alright, so the business venture analysis. There are 3 prospective ventures here with estimated annual returns, and we can kind of do the math on those, okay? I'm actually going to switch this over so it's easier for you to see. Our main key metric, actually what might be important, is if we just take your annual return metric at the moment, which is 50,400 emeralds. That's the only key metric we need. Put that away and push that off to the side. Put the calculator on my easy access. Okay, perfect. Now, the question is, okay, so we've provided 3 prospective industries that you can go into. These are monster hunting, which is what you suggested, security consultant, as well as what you suggested, and the last one is something that we've offered up, which is farm technologies. There's a massive demand for farm technologies right now. That's redstone, water irrigation. We can talk more about that in a little bit. Okay, so the monster hunter, right, you would fall under the Creature Control Act from 2019. There are some stipulations about how you can go about building this business. Licensing and the licensing fees are all listed there. We'll go over fees and so on afterwards for each one of these. There is an estimated annual return on this of 18,400 in E. So that actually brings your number up if we were to calculate that. So 50,000 100 E plus 18. You're looking at, with this one, an annual return, if we can maintain, right, of 68,000 emeralds. That's insane. Now, this number is after 5 years of being in the industry. It's not right away. technologies, you fall under the Agricultural Innovative Act. Now, there is a GCC farming board as well. They aren't as crazy as the GCCSB. They actually provide incentives to get into this industry. Okay, so there's a desire to have this. This industry includes things like I said, irrigation, so water design, water production. It also takes in farm design, the best way to farm on a greater scale. There's also additionally compost methods, green energies, and lastly, redstone to automate the farming, which is a huge thing right now because automation in the farming industry is going to be massive. So we need to make sure that we get some automation with redstone going for pistons and so on. I will say costs for materials can be a little bit higher, but we estimate with your disposable income right now, you could likely build this business. The annual return on this business alone in 5 years is 107, right? 107,000 emeralds annually. We do that, plus your 5,400 annually. You're looking at a whopping 157,000 emeralds annually. That in 5 years. That's crazy. So I think that this is probably your best approach, but we can kind of go for a little bit more. So down here, we've got the comparative analysis. Again, this is mainly for you. It's kind of what we just discussed up here. A little bit more like, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't seem to remember, but it's concise. There you go. It's concise for you. So, gives you the return here, which is your big numbers, and then your specific acts. Okay, so you need to make sure you look at those. Farm technology yields the highest projected return. Okay, we highlighted that because we also kind of want you going into that. Let's take a look at the costs associated with each industry. Take these last 2 pages out. Looks like we folded this one a little bit, but that's okay. That one's a little less important. Get that out of the way. Okay. So, here is the expenses and the recommended corporate structure for each one of those industries. So if you decide to do one of those, the corporate structure, right, this here is going to tell you the best approach and what's available. So when you're doing a Monster Hunter business, the best option is a sole ownership, where it has low overhead. It's single operated yourself. The personal liability, it's acceptable for contract work. Like, you're taking on different contracts from villages. In this case, there's not much liability with monster hunting other than the regulation and licensing fees. So it makes sense to take on the sole ownership because the liability protections aren't really there. But you can easily, right? Easily take this, go to a place like Herville, and offer up your services for contracts that are available, such as taking out a mob, a spawner nearby, or, kind of just eliminating a raid or being available for a raid, stuff like that. I will say there is kind of laterability in business. You could end up getting into the XP farming business. I know we previously discussed an Enderman XP farm that you've been kind of allocating costs to build, but we can talk more about that separately another time. I'm surprised you want to do another business, even though you're doing that. So yeah, sole ownership for that one. Security consultant. Now, like I said, this one has some crazy fees. We need to be careful. So, our best way is to make a company, right? This company would protect you from liability. It allows for multiple village contracts, liability protection, and like I said, scalability. It allows you to get bigger and bigger. You can hire more experts, other villagers, for example, maybe other villagers who have resources and so on in this field, and you can provide consulting at a greater scale. But again, you do fall under the GCCSB, which I would recommend you make sure you know enough about them before you do anything, okay? Company. Farm Technologies. We also recommend a company for this one. It allows for high capital investment, right? Investor-ready structures. Redstone design, RD, right? Lots of RD, and it gets you that RD protection needed with a company. Like, at least that way you can protect your redstone designs and license them out to other people. The thing with Farm Technologies is it really, really, really allows you to develop a relationship with the agriculture industry as well as the redstone industry. It's like bringing two niches together, right? And that is a needed area. It's like a gap that's currently being filled. So if you're interested, I would say Farm Technologies company. Liability protection's there, the investment possibilities are there, scalability is there, and at the rate that you likely grow, this is probably the best approach. Now, obviously, these are recommendations. You would need to talk to Armor Village legal experts, probably the legal experts at the GCC for sure, to get more of an advice. We can't provide any, villager legal advice, so you need to go talk to them or talk to our other department with the Golden Apple Company, okay, or our parent company, which we'll talk about after. So, business registration, here's your fees for almost all of them, okay? There is one thing in here that I'm going to tell you is more important than the rest, especially for these two options, okay? So for all of them, business registration, it's going to cost 150 emeralds, okay? Name reservation and protection, 75 emeralds. Operating licensing, that your license is going to be an annual cost of 200. Liability insurance is done annually, that is going to be 350. Tax identification filing is 50 emeralds. Company documents, so this is the one. It will only apply if you take one of these two business structures, okay? So it's important that you recognize that. It's a one-time for 300 emeralds. And then your totals, but we better go through this. The one-time here, I'll highlight all the one-times per project. Company only. This one, additionally, I forgot. It's a company-only expense, okay? And this is a one-time. So, I'm going to highlight all of these because they're important timelines. This one, this 200 emeralds operating license for each project is going to be your highest cost, alright? So for example, in a year, if you decide you're going to do 1,000 projects, you're looking at 200,000 emeralds. That's a lot. So we wouldn't recommend taking that much on in a year. That, it completely decreases your annual return. Obviously, your annual return could come back. We assumed that you would be doing 10 to 5 projects on a yearly basis, so you have quite a crazy number here. So, the total, right, if you're a sole owner, is only 475, whereas if you're a company, it's 1,125 emeralds, okay? These are your fees, usually on an annual basis. Obviously, this is pending project number, which is important. We've also outlined the registration process below, right? Step 1 is submit name reservation to the Great City Commerce Office. 2 is file the business structure declaration, whether you're a sole ownership or a company documents. Obtain operating license under the relevant act. Then register for tax identification with the Emerald Revenue Authority, the ERA. Secure liability insurance, mandatory for companies, right? You have to do this again. It's mandatory. Don't forget that. Open business vault account with a recognized bank. The Golden Apple Company offers several options, so we do have those. We can discuss that at a different point, though, okay? But yeah, costs on an annual basis, right? If you're opening a company in farm technologies, and you're looking at 157, I mean, like annually you're only coming down to 155. Like that's still great, and that's only with 5 projects, which we assume you'd be doing within 5 years. I mean, it's a possibility that in 10 you could be doing exponentially more, and the numbers would increase even higher, right? Now, the reason we've recommended a company is it allows a corporate structure. Obviously, you're not opening a guild parent company, but a company also still allows for subsidiary departments, right? And to demonstrate that, we've decided to use our own corporate structure to kind of give you an idea. So this is how we work. So here we are, the Golden Apple Company. Obviously, we do wealth advisory, we work in finance industry, we do lending and credit, insurance. This also comes with banking. I don't know why that's not listed, but you know, mistakes. Golden Apple Company, obviously it falls under the Golden Emerald Guild. Okay, now a parent guild is a very rare occurrence. This is the biggest guild in our world here. We have the most influence over trade and commerce, oversees different industries that are currently really doing good out here, and we often work out there. Obviously, becoming a guild member is a difficult process. Guild members are premium. They have better service, service fees, and they just get a better resources through us. This is our parent guild. It oversees subsidiary companies, which is the Golden Apple Company. In your case, you'd want to open a company, and it would build up, and it would allow for subsidiary departments such as these, okay? Under the Golden Emerald Guild, there are several other subsidiary companies. That's Golden Harvest Co., which works in farming. Golden Pickaxe Limited works in mining. Golden Circuit Corp works in redstone. This is RD. Golden Quill Agency, and this works in policy. Now, each one of these has subsidiary departments, which you would be able to do, right? Golden Harvest Co., for example, has crop sciences, livestock management, irrigation technology. Golden Pickaxe Limited has ore extraction, gem processing, and deep tunneling. Golden Circuit Corp has automation, signal design, and power systems. And Golden Quill Agency has policy advice, compliance, and public affairs. These are just some of the examples. If you were to, for example, go into farm technologies, you could be looking at departments that come from these 2 subsidiary systems, right? Which is super, super relevant right now. There is a lot of possibilities with the company structure. Okay. I hope that makes sense. So, what we're going to do is I will send you these documents to take a look at those. Like I said, this is your homework, so make sure you take a look at these and try to organize how you can take down your discretionary spending to have more, so we can invest it into the selected business. Think over the business options, let us know. You can either leave it on the board outside for us to take a look at ourselves, send us a message, or the next time you come in we can talk about your option. But select one of them, and maybe there's something we haven't considered. If you have other ones, we can start working on that process and getting to the next stages of your finance, talking about lending if need be, banking, and so on. Yeah, perfect. Well, I'm glad you came by. Looking forward to see what you come up